Perfected, we need your assistance immediately. Someone's been murdering all the game cats. The last known victim was north of your location at East Falls. Godspeed, and don't forget your aim.
Target acquired.
Hey, Rage Room, fight my Bravo team.
I am Perfected Insanity, and you're watching Viewer Takeover.
This is Viewer Takeover, where we film every Monday night, and then we bring it to YouTube every Tuesday. I don't know, man. I think we're way off schedule this week. We're just getting back into action, and so forgive us if we're not on time. My name is Brian Paul from this channel right here, PSVR Without Parole, and the guys to my right, the boys! Dave from Dave Station VVVR.
We've been away for 3 weeks, but the Rev will never leave.
And that guy on the right-hand side of the screen is AJ from The Underground, PSVR Underground.
Always got my aim controller. Let's do this, Perfected. Let's go. Let's go. I'm ready. Two-player.
Every week on Viewer Takeover, we like to thank a whole lot of people, and the first person we want to thank, of course, is Perfected Insanity for that awesome Viewer Takeover introduction. Sent it to me forever ago, by the way, just to the wrong email address. I'm so glad I found it.
That was one of the best directed Game Cat intros I've ever seen. That was phenomenal.
The
Great
editing,
job.
everything, the sound. I mean, that is a whole
The House of the Dead beginning.
Very good, man.
That was so
Very
good. When
stuff.
can we see that in theaters?
Yeah, we're going to hire Perfected Insanity to make the Without Parole official movie. Ooh,
Yes.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, we should get you for the award show next year. If you want to introduce next week's show, make sure you send your short, sweet, seductive, or long, well-produced, and southern, sexy, sultry intro to Without Parole, just Without Parole, at gmail.com. But of course, Perfected Insanity is not the only person we want to thank. We also want to thank these lovely cats down here. These are people who went to patreon.com/Without Parole Games, and they're the ones giving us at least $1 or more every month. As you guys know, we don't ask you for any money. We're just happy that you're here. But Without Parole is able to survive because of the support of all these viewers down here. And the best way to support us, if you're interested, is by just heading over there to Without Parole. Patreon.com/Without Parole Games, and hooking us up with just $1 or more a month. It's hopefully it's just $1 to you, but it means the world to us. AJ, who else do we need to thank before we get the show rolling?
Brian, Dave, Game Cats, welcome back. We would like to thank those who support us in another way by changing their name on YouTube or Google to something Game Cat related, something Game Cat adjacent, as you, Brian, or something Game Cat adjacent would like to say. And this week we have a lot of new Game Cat name changes. We've been away for a minute, y'all. Starting with a hashtag Game Cat in a Petri.
This was probably so much more topical when
Yeah.
Hotcakes changed his name during Christmas. But thank you anyway. He won't change his name until we give him the shout out. So that's your shout out. Time to change it, man.
We've also got Perfected Insanity Game Cat, who just did that amazing intro. Friggin' awesome. We've also got... Oh, what?
No, keep going.
We've also got Greatness from Small Game Cats. I love this. This is getting awesome.
Yeah, this is Nathan Drake, the Explore Game Cat, by the way.
Oh, okay. Will Ferroni Game Cat Meow with
Is
the
that-
Game Cat Chow.
Is that a type of dog?
Will Ferroni?
A dog treat?
Oh, Will Ferroni.
Beef Ferroni, dude. Beef
Oh,
Ferroni.
beefaroni. Yeah, I knew it sounded familiar.
Charlie Fisk, the Game Cat. K-Panic, the graphically dynamic Game Cat. Works. He looks really good on a PS5.
Nice.
The man of our dreams, I think I once said.
The man.
Nacho Libre, the Game Cat.
I like how there's so many O's in Nacho. It's like not even Nacho, it's Nacho. Nacho.
Speaking of O's,
Oh, God, here
Roy
we go.
Matumbo, the stiff upper lip Game Cat.
I'll give you a
You know,
stiff
he's just
upper
going to
lip.
keep changing his name to hear you do that.
And I
you
will
know?
do that every time.
Okay.
Finally,
All right.
last but certainly not least, People, the pig, the mysterious Game Cat.
I wonder what's he's so mysterious. What's so mysterious about him?
I don't know, but I like.
Maybe that's the mystery.
I like. Yeah. Ooh.
Right on. Dave, what do we really do here on this show, man?
Well, what we usually do is we take questions from all over the internet, we hunt them down, but if you guys put a hashtag viewer takeover on them, they're really easy to find. So if you throw one of those questions up on YouTube, on any video, or in our Discord, which has a dedicated hashtag viewer takeover channel where we like to talk about this stuff, we will scour through those and pick 3 of our favorites and put you on blast, talk about you all over the internet. And so, yeah, you guys want to get rolling?
Absolutely. The first question comes to us from Dan Kiefer on an episode of PSVR Gamescast Live from probably like a month ago. So sorry for the delay, Dan. But his question is hashtag viewer takeover, like a motherfucking pro. What do you think about Half-Life Alyx getting GameSpot's Game of the Year? It's not just VR Game of the Year. It's Game of the Year 2020. I got to be honest. I didn't know this happened. I had to look this up just to confirm it. And I was absolutely shocked to see that this was 100% the case. What do you guys think about GameSpot awarding a VR game, of course, Half-Life Alyx, their absolute 100% above all other games, Game of the Year?
I think it's pretty exciting for the medium. I mean, to have, like, that doesn't happen. Has that ever happened? I don't think that's ever happened.
No.
And so, especially with a game that has as much name recognition, to be able to say, like, listen, guys, it's not just a great VR game. It's not just a great Half-Life game. It's both, and it's the best game we think we've played this year. That's huge, and it makes people curious about VR, even if they're not going to run out tomorrow and buy a PSVR headset. Like, it gets the seed growing in the back of people's minds that, like, oh, well, shit, like, how can I argue with this? You know, if enough people are putting it up there and saying this is one of the best games of the year, bar none, VR or not, it kind of forces you to consider the fact that, hey, maybe VR games can be good, and I might check them out. So, yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah.
100% agree. This is good for VR as a whole, for a mainstream media outlet to recognize a VR game as the best game that came out this year, or last year, I should say. That is awesome. It sends a great message, and you know, the more of these we get, the better it is for us in the long run.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of actually back in the day when like IGN and all the other sites would have, and maybe they still do, but they used to talk about downloadable games, like stuff from the PlayStation Store or Xbox Live Arcade, in like a totally different light, like a wholly separate category. It would be like, you know, downloadable game of the year, and then they'd always qualify anytime they spoke about a game, you know, from the store, as it's really good for a downloadable game. And I feel like that's kind of been the case for VR for the last 4 years. They're like, oh, it's really good for a VR game. It's really long for a VR game. It controls really well for a VR game, you know? And it's like there's always this qualifier that comes after it. And I really think that this is the first step in saying, okay, we're no longer looking at downloadable games as if they're their own thing, as if like they don't get as much respect as the rest of the games that you can buy that comes in a physical box, you know. And I think that's starting to happen with VR games now. We start to look at these things like as if they're on par, or at least there's enough editors out there to say, you know what, this is like maybe even the future of the medium. And so it's nice to see these games discussed in the same paragraph as non-VR gaming.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Dave,
I think that's a good parallel too. I like that because, like, you think about before we had games like Journey, and before like somebody had established like, hey, these indie downloadable $20 games can be as affecting and as awesome as anything else you can get out there. And then at this point, like, people are calling Hades Game of the Year, and that's a downloadable indie game. You know, like the paradigm has shifted so much that these games are obviously in the conversation instead of a side note. So yeah, I do think VR is going to eventually get there, and yeah, it's a good sign in the right direction.
Yeah.
Oh, I never thought that VR was supposed to replace flat screen gaming. I think it's supposed to complement it. It's supposed to exist alongside it for those looking for more immersive and hardcore experience. So yeah, I love to see these competing against, you know, games that are a lot, you know, VR games are supposedly 4 times harder to develop than a regular game. So yeah, the closer we get to seeing more games like this is what people want. Stuff like at the scale of Half-Life Alyx. And the other thing that's good about this, the attention that it gets, is Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, whoever's going to start paying attention and being like, well, we had all those things, and look, this is getting the recognition. You know, we need to get a piece of that pie.
Yeah. It was such a shame when we were watching the Game Awards with Jeff Keighley, and it was like the only time VR was mentioned really at all was for the VR games category, and then
Right.
the other VR games didn't appear like in any other category for the entire time.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, but it was like a 3-hour show, and it was like the amount of times VR was mentioned was a minute. It's very, very little of the entire thing. So it's really good to see this kind of like seeping into the mainstream. Personally, I haven't played Alyx. I'm not going to be like, oh no, it totally deserves to. But we've heard from enough people who have played it, and enough people who have said, they put it on. Enough people have put it on par with Saints and Sinners. Some people say Saints and Sinners is better. Some people say Alyx is better. I don't give a fuck.
They're entirely different. I've played some of Alyx, maybe like 4 or 5 hours of it. I didn't beat it, but they're totally different games. But yeah, I mean, it deserves the highest accolades a VR game can get. It's a great game. So
Nice.
yeah.
As I'm living in my little PSVR bubble over here, and although I can hook my Quest up to my PC and play Alyx, I'm still holding out for hope, man. I'm still holding out for hope that it'll be a PSVR 2 game.
Oh, I think it has to be, especially when they can say it was like the game of the year and stuff. Like,
Right.
if you have that accolade, you can sell to a lot of people, and if there's a market there, you're gonna want to put it in that market. I think Valve is smart enough to know that kind of thing.
Nice. Tornado decides to join the podcast.
Oh, hey.
All right, who does our next question come from?
Comes from J Meow from the Discord, says hashtag viewer takeover, and says, which genre is most improved by VR? In my opinion, the most improved genre is racing games. I couldn't care less about racing games outside of the old Forza games and Mario Kart games prior to VR. Yet now some of my favorite games are Drive Club and Wipeout. I actually played the new Horizon game today for the first time, and it was almost laughable playing a driving game on a flat screen. It's just that much worse.
I don't think his perspective is shared by too many people. Right?
Yeah.
But I agree with the sentiment that, so he asks here, what genre is most improved by VR in your opinion? Just pick one. We'll pick one each. So
all of them.
share.
VR makes everything better. You're welcome.
Yeah, man. I think I'll go a little different route here. I think stealth has been one of my favorites that has been converted to VR because it has that sense of presence. You're trying not to get spotted, and when you feel like it's actually you trying not to get spotted or listening around, the 3D audio, stuff like the Persistence has amazing 3D audio. And yeah, I really feel like stealth just really gets you into that, gets you even more immersed. Though technically you could say anything, but yes, I think stealth is a huge one.
So I'm going to let Brian take horror because I figured somebody would take horror and it would be a race to horror. But if you weren't going to say horror, then feel free to say a different one. I just didn't want to steal it from you.
Please feel free to say it.
No, I'm not going to. I'm going to
Okay.
go left field also and say fishing games. I can't imagine wanting to play a fishing game on a flat screen. Can you think of wanting to sit in front of a flat screen and like click buttons to fish?
I don't know.
Fishing-
Dreamcast had it nailed.
Well, but they had the fishing rod controller, which was like proto, like motion controller interaction, and that's what made it really fun.
Right.
Fishing mini games, I'll accept. I like fishing mini games in like an RPG or something, but full-on fishing games, VR just makes them so. Like Catch and Release, I wouldn't play that as a flat game, but it's so nice as a VR game, and the real VR fishing that they have on Quest is really good too. That's a lot of fun. So yeah, I think kind of a left field one, but definitely. And I guess I got to be on brand because I'm wearing my Sega Bass fishing shirt.
Nice.
So that's mine.
I don't know. I mean, I was gonna say. Everybody expects me to say horror because my answer for everything is Resident Evil 7 on Viewer Takeover. And so, I mean, yeah, if I'm going to stay on brand and say that, and say horror, then, 100%, everything seems more real. It seems like it's happening to you instead of a character on screen. I've been trying to kind of trudge my way through Resident Evil 2 Remake on PS4. And even been playing a little bit of Resident Evil Revelations 1 on PS4. And man, it's partially the third person perspective that pulls you out of it, because once upon a time, every single game that I played, I wanted to play, I was never like, when I was younger, I was never into first person games. I always wanted to see my character on screen, and that only really started changing like near the end of the PS3 era. And now I find it to be a hindrance. I'm always trying to like look around my character and try to see what they can see. And so I've sort of like, become more of a first person fan because of VR. And on top of that, just being able to like turn my head and look around and see the stuff that's there. And so, Resident Evil 2 Remake, as creepy as it is, it's just not scary because not only am I removed from the perspective, I'm now suddenly in third person, but I'm also 6 feet away from my fucking television. I'm like, there's no way to scare me when I'm sitting that far away from my television. You just can't.
Yeah, and the other thing is with that third person perspective, like it's harder to scare you because you can see the entire room. You can see the layout, or at least most of it, whatever's within the camera range. In VR, if there's a guy who could tap me on the shoulder to the left, I can't see him unless I turn over there. So there could be something lurking just in your periphery at any time. You know what I mean? In VR, when you're limited to that perspective, the whole world around you is scary instead of just like what's around the next corner in the next room. You're like, I don't even know what's behind me right now.
Right.
So yeah, that always adds some.
When something goes bump in the night. No, I agree. Again, it just like stealth. It's you, like it almost feels like they're coming after you, your physical presence, and that makes it pretty terrifying. Again, the 3D audio. 3D audio is how you mentioned, like sitting, third person is kind of ruined now for you in terms of being scared about, the little character you see on screen. Audio is kind of the same for me now too. Maybe wearing headphones would counteract that, but typically, like if the sound is coming out of the TV, like it's just not scary to me anymore. Third person, I tried playing Resident Evil 2, and I was like, it's not scary anymore. Like it ruined me. VR ruined me.
100%. 100%. Who does the final question come to us from?
It comes to us from Rody the Game Cat over at Discord, who says, in the hashtag Viewer Takeover channel, he says, hashtag it's a thing. And his question is, what is your most prominent whatever happened to game? I can think of 3 games that seem to have just vanished. Star Child, Anamorphine, and World War Tunes. Any others you can think of? What do you guys think? There's plenty of these out there.
It's 2021, and I only have one question. Where is Baby Hands? What happened to Baby Hands? I laughed when I first saw that trailer, and I was like, this looks terrible. But it looks like the fun kind of terrible, like a terrible game, like that's just so ridiculous that it's actually fun. It happens all the time. And that seems like one of those games. Give me my Baby Hands, Sony. Not messing around. I'm going to start campaigning for this.
It's everything Good Dog, Bad Dog could have been and should have been. Baby Hands.
Yeah.
Mine's kind of a weird one. I know we've talked a lot about Horror Sense in the past, which is kind of like a niche Japanese-only horror game that was adapted from was it Namco, Bandai Namco, or Koei Tecmo? Koei Tecmo, that's who it is. They have this series of VR Sense arcade units in Japan where like you'll sit in a thing and they've got like wind blowing on you and smells and stuff. But they ported one of them over to VR for PSVR and said, hey, we're going to do some more of these. One of the ones in the series, actually 2 of them were Dynasty Warriors. And I have kind of what's the word, guilty pleasure with Dynasty Warriors. Like it's not a great game, but it's fun.
Hey, be careful.
It's a cool guy. I like those kind of games.
I played all the way up until 8.
Yeah.
I played everyone 3.
So they have one where you're actually fighting guys, which looks really fun. Almost like in the arcades, they used to have that thing that was like House of the Dead, but you had a sword, and you'd be like battling guys like that as you went through. It was like on rails. It kind of reminded me of that, which looked really fun. There's another one that's a roller coaster with Dynasty Warriors where you fight guys on the roller coaster, which sounds like a bonkers, like not Rush of Blood, but kind of Rush of Blood. Like it's got combat mechanics and stuff built in. I would love to see those at some point, even if it's just in the Japanese store, which it probably would be. I wish they would go through with that whole porting, the whole series of all that stuff, because I'd buy that shit right up.
I need to look into this Dynasty Warriors one you're talking about, because that game expanded more well beyond just going and button mashing. They added like animals, like you could have tigers and wolves following you around. and you could ride elephants and shit. That would be awesome, man.
So what you're saying is the only way to take a bad game and make it better is by combining it with another one of your favorite bad games, Bloody Roar.
Bloody Roar.
It's like Bloody Roar Dynasty Warriors Edition.
Exactly.
Oh my god. I don't. How are we even friends? Dude, Mind Taker is the only real answer here. I've been talking about Mind Taker for like years, and I think that maybe I'm still talking about it, and the game has probably long been canceled. If you go to the website, so it's a horror game, of course, because it's viewer takeover, and my only answer is a horror. But if you go to the website, it's funny because it's been saying the same thing for a while. They say the project is currently suffering a long delay, but then in bold letters they write, although it is not a canceled project. They're basically talking. I mean, but who knows how long this has been since? Who knows if the developers are even still around? Relovo posted about 5 months ago, I believe, on their YouTube channel, and that's it. Like, I don't think there's been anything else for like years even. So who knows if there's anybody still kicking around over there? But this seemed like a super polished. It was a PlayStation 4 and PC game that was supposed to have full PSVR support. And Dave's watching the trailer right now, and it just looks super polished. It looks fantastic, and it looks like they have made it pretty far into development. And the website basically says at this point that they're just looking for more funding. And so if you're interested in investing into the project, and I was like, I wonder how much money it would cost to get this project finished. I don't have any money to invest in it, but man, I would love to like try to like help promote a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe or something to help these guys get the money that they need, because again, this looks right up my alley.
Yeah, it looks great.
It's unfortunate, there's a lot of games that we were really excited about that never really happened or something changed. And I always used to, the second I hear like a game is coming, I'd be like glued to it, and yeah, I mean, now I kind of take it with a grain of salt, unless there's like a release date or release window or trailer with gameplay, something that really is like solid. But a lot of times these days, we hear a lot of developers say, yeah, our game's coming to PSVR, or it's coming to PSVR. But then we look into it and it's like, there's like really no evidence that it's actually coming. So I don't know why some developers, maybe they have plans to, and they change. Maybe they just want to, and then realize later that it's a little bit harder than that they were expecting. There was like the end of the beginning or something that I've been following since like 2016, which might come out one day. They still say they're still coming. Undead Citadel is probably, although they've been a little touching base with us, so that's a little bit different. But there's a lot of games that are just kind of like lost and that we never heard from again. Don't Look Down comes to mind. I was really excited about that. It looked like To the Top. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fantastic year for PlayStation VR and maybe VR in general, because so many games that were planned for 2020, obviously COVID changed a lot of that. A lot of developers started having to work from home. We're talking about teams of anywhere from like 2, 3, 4, 5 people all the way up to like 30, 40, 50 people that all had to kind of like rework how they worked on games, and like restructure their entire office to be able to like work from home.
Yeah.
And so that obviously took a toll on a lot of different developers. Impulse Gear updated us recently and said that they're going to have an announcement soon, but a big part of their 2020 was kind of restructuring and figuring out how to do this all from home. So I think all these games that were planned for 2020 are now being pushed into 2021 alongside all these games that were already planned for 2021. And so I think there's just going to be games piling up on top of each other for like the next 12 months or so. And hopefully that's a good thing, right? Hopefully that means we just get nonstop entertainment for the whole year.
And I think to that point, keep in mind, big screen also is something that we should be getting this year. And that's going to be a huge game changer for PSVR. I think people are going to love having big screen on the platform. And that's going to bring a lot of people like back to their headsets that haven't been using them that much. Because we don't have that sort of like exact social experience that people love out of big screen. But their website still says coming in 2020. So I think it's exactly the same thing you said, where all intents and purposes where it's going to be 2020, but then COVID and, it slips and who knows. But
if some of these games that we talked about, I don't know if we'll ever see again. It sucks that Playful specifically with Star Child. I think that was the one that Rhodey brought up. That does not seem like it's ever going to happen. Playful laid off a ton of employees. You know, they still seem to exist in some shape or form, but I doubt that working on a PSVR game is suddenly like shifted to a priority for them.
Doesn't seem practical, no.
All right, you guys, I think that pretty much does it for another viewer takeover. If you didn't like the questions that we answered this week, then the only person you have to blame, my friend, is yourself. Ask a better question, either in the comments below with the hashtag viewer takeover. Fuck you all. It's your fault that this show sucks. It's not us. It's you. God damn it. I'm blaming everybody but ourselves.
Ryan, they're going to yell at us on the internet about it.
Make sure that you leave your better questions in the comments below with the hashtag viewer takeover, all one word, or join our Discord because that's where you can leave viewer takeover questions all the time, and we'll see them there probably first and foremost. And send your viewer takeover introductions to Without Parole at gmail.com. No, Without Parole Games. Without Parole at gmail.com. I'm talking to you, Perfected Insanity. That was an amazing introduction, though, by the way. And also change your name to GameCat. That's not a question. It's not a request. That is a demand. Leave a hashtag GameCat in the comments below so we can give you a shout out on next week's show, like we gave all 17 people at the beginning of this week's show. For another episode of Viewer Takeover, my name is Brian Paul. Go follow Dave at Dave Station VR. Follow AJ at PSVR Underground. This was Viewer Takeover, and we're out. All right, let's see. We haven't done this in a while. Give me a check 1, check 2.
Check 1, check 2.
Check 1, check 2.
That's just so ridiculous.
You're ridiculous.
Dave's like, check 1, check 2. You're like, check 1, check 2.
Check 1. Can I get a check?
Because whenever I'm like, check 1, check 2, you're like, that's not what you talk like.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to just make the most obnoxious thing I can to make sure that
You talk like a drill sergeant. You're like, fall in!